I'm Kerry and welcome to this video. Now in this one I would like to have a few words about a very special video game that I had the pleasure of spending quite a bit of time with. That was basically Alpha Protocol. Now interestingly, when Mass Effect 3 came out and people played through the game, they were kind of complaining that why it only had 3+1 hidden ending, and they wanted more. They wanted to have all their decisions more impact on the story and on the final scenes of the game. Now it seems people lost information completely about Alpha Protocol, because that game had 32 different endings based on all the decisions you made throughout the game, and it was quite interesting. Now, why do I bring up this game now, since it was published way back in 2010? Now, that's because the trademark got cancelled. So if anybody has the idea and the financial backing to do something with it, maybe they could. So basically, why was this game special, especially to me? It's a spy game, a role-playing game with a third-person view controls, and basically it gave a very, very accurate and exciting view into the world of espionage, and also gave back the atmosphere of James Bond movies, of Jason Bourne movies, and all the likes. It was interestingly structured in a way that it wasn't only the missions that matter that you are doing, it was everything in between as well. Now imagine a game where a simple dialogue with a character can be just as exciting as the craziest action scene going on in any other part of the game. Basically, Alpha Protocol achieved this by first of all putting in a dialogue system which was timed. You didn't have minutes or sometimes hours to think about what you wanted to tell other characters. You didn't have the luxury of just sitting back and thinking that which approach would be better. You had to be really quick on your toes, and sometimes it went into an absolute hectic, heated argument with certain characters, and that gave such a level of tension to the whole thing that it was just really exhausting after a while, to be honest, but in a positive way. Now these dialogues were split up not to the actual sentences that you would use like in answers or questions, but like dialogue stances, like what's your stance on something. And that was an interesting thing, because you never knew exactly what your character was going to say. You just gave sort of a nudge about his mood, about his demeanor, about his way of dealing with the situation. Would it be aggressive or protective, defensive, or trying to seduce someone, trying to trick someone, trying to lie, and all that. So it was just these general things, general directions where you could push the character, but not exactly what he would say. Now, this got also a bit of an extra boost based on what difficulty you were playing the game, because if you finished it once, you could unlock the rookie difficulty and the veteran difficulty later on as well, or the other way around. It's been a few years, but basically you could use your difficulty type as a dialogue option as well, like responding to certain things as a veteran spy would, or as a rookie spy would, and it created really interesting situations in the dialogues. Now, what was also really spicing this whole thing up, that when you were out on a mission, you could search around and find bits and pieces of information, some documents, some recordings, a whole bunch of stuff, and sometimes they didn't seem to matter much, but later on you might have ended up in a dialogue where it was crucial to have that information. So basically your action-filled play style and research provided benefits for the dialogues later on, and sometimes based on what you said or what you could get from someone in a dialogue, affected what you had in the missions. And this was a really interesting dynamic, that it wasn't just how good you're with a gun or with close combat in a mission, but how much research did you do? How much information did you get from other people before you went into that mission? So it was really completing each other and gave a complete experience, that nothing was neglected, nothing was unimportant. Every dialogue had an impact on the game, and every mission had an impact on the dialogues and the game in general. Now, apart from this dialogue thing, there was also the option to ally yourself with certain organizations within the game. Now, your primary organization was the Alpha Protocol, was basically a hidden, clandestine government organization doing the unspeakable background operations that no one could speak about, unspeakable in that sense. And but there were other organizations doing their own clandestine things, and you could build an alliance with these other organizations. Now, this had a huge impact on the game as well, on the game style and your options within the game, because basically they helped you with missions, and a mission that, for example, with one organization, for example with Albatross, would have been a really sneaky, stealthy, tricky mission, just going in, nobody notices anything, and then getting out of the place. With another organization, you might have actually started sitting in a tank or an armored vehicle and just blasting through the main gate and shooting everybody. So it was like really different based on which organization you got close to. And this went on the whole game. Basically, every decision, every action, every achievement, everything had an impact on everything else. And that's how the game, in the end, could have 32 different endings based on who you befriended, who you saved, who you turned against you, who you turned against. Basically, even the final boss character changes into a different character. You go up against a different organization, a different team, or a different person, and it's like really sort of giving a realistic vibe to this whole spy genre, to be honest. And to be absolutely honest, this is something I'm missing from a lot of games. I mean, if some team, being Obsidian, they managed to do this with a game in 2010, where is this knowledge now? Where is the skill, the talent to create something like this? We get games where you go through the story with 100 choices and none of it matters. You get one ending or maybe 2-3 endings, and it's like your choices didn't even matter. You're just going anyway the way the main writer wanted, because they were either too lazy to write different endings or simply didn't have the level of cranial matter to come up with anything else. But it's sad to look at it that in 2010 we had a game like this, and a lot of people were bickering about the graphics quality, although it wasn't bad, to be honest, at that time. They were complaining about certain bugs within the game. To be honest, I played through this game multiple times on PC and on PlayStation 3 as well, and I haven't seen any of the bugs that people mentioned. I was like, what are these people talking about? It was running perfectly. The only thing annoying was the checkpoint system, that you went through a door and suddenly you couldn't go back through the same door, because that was basically a hidden checkpoint and you had to move on with the rest of the territory. So that was a bit weird. Sometimes it was badly communicated to the player that you will enter a different section and you won't be able to come back, but yeah, whatever, that happens. But that was really a minor thing in the whole game, and I really haven't seen any of the game-breaking bugs that others spoke about. Now, regarding the whole freedom of the story and all of that, your character was also highly customizable, and it wasn't just that what type of equipment you could provide for the character, what weaponry you could use, or gadgets and all that, because basically whatever was ever created in spy movies is in this game. So it's like a whole bunch of stuff. This was already quite extensive, and it was really interesting how you could push yourself Because, for example, if you went a really techie direction, like dealing with gadgets and explosives and all that, you could use equipment that had like a billion pockets, so you had a gadget for every kind of situation. So that was kind of funny. But you could also push yourself regarding your own skills by simply putting on a Hawaii shirt. And you had two pockets, and that's it. One was for your gun, one for a picklock, and then solve it. So it was like almost like old school Hitman style, like like a purist mode that, oh, I'm just going in with this, I don't need anything. And that was really interesting, that it gave you the option to push yourself to that and go into seemingly impossible situations and still come out victorious. Now, regarding customization, it wasn't just the equipment and weaponry and all that. You could customize your skills, how skilled your character was with certain weapons, with certain gadgets, in certain situations, with stealth, close combat, and so on and so on. And that already gave quite a bit of variety for the whole thing. But on top of that, your play style itself was also rewarded. If you went in sneaking around using stealth a lot, then bit by bit you did get more and more perks for your stealth skills. If you were taking care of enemy combatants on the missions in a non-lethal way, just putting them to sleep or knocking them out without permanent injury and all that, then you got benefits to taking people out without permanent injuries. If you went in full brutal mode and you were just breaking bones left and right, and then you got perks to that. So the game basically saw your playstyle and rewarded it. See that's how you want to play. Then you get bonuses for that game style basically. And this is also really interesting because in some games, you just advance levels and you get the skill points and you distribute them. And sometimes what you can do doesn't fully match your play style. But here the game was basically adapting to that and saying that, oh yeah, you want to use a shotgun every time you go around, but you also want to sneak around, and you get bonuses to your sneaking if you're good with it and with your shotgun as well. So it was really interesting way of rewarding the player and the play style, and also not judging the player. In some games, for example, in the Deus Ex games, you do get rewards, but you get less rewards if you're being lethal in the game. If you're going the full pacifist route, which is quite a nice achievement, which I got on quite a number of these games, basically you are rewarded more for going the pacifist approach and not leaving corpses everywhere. But in this game, it sort of acknowledged that, yeah, this is a spy game, and spies and various operatives and all that do have to deal with messy things from time to time, and that's part of the deal. So that was also interesting in the whole thing, that how this was handled. So you see, there's a huge variety of customization with equipment, with weaponry, with skills. The game adapts to your playstyle and rewards your playstyle. Then you get into the dialogue options, which really provide a rich environment, a rich experience for this whole spy genre. And these affect the missions you go on, that how alerted the enemies are, how many of them are there, what kind of equipment is on the field, how do you even start the mission. And whatever you do in the missions is actually affecting what options you have in the dialogues. So the whole thing was really, really well put together. And to be honest, I did a bit of background check, because there were quite a lot of problems with the development of the game. Honestly, it did work out well in the end. What I found, what was really interesting, that the basically Sega came in and they assisted with the rewriting of the game, of the story, of the whole narrative, and they sent in a quality assurance and cohesion strike team to ensure that there were no plot holes in the game. Now, honestly, when was the last time that you heard anything like that? that they are sending in a specialist team to check the cohesion of the game story and to make sure that there are no plot holes. I mean, you don't even see anything like that with series or movies nowadays, because you get these incoherent masses as supposed entertainment. But here was a game back in 2010 where they had a specialist team checking that. And when you play through the game multiple times, you do see the various options and the various directions the story goes, and it makes sense. The whole thing works and clicks, and they really put a lot of effort into making it work. So yeah, that's kind of interesting. You might think that, well, if it was so good and so entertaining, then why wasn't it successful? I do believe that it kind of went over the head of a lot of people, because a bunch of people complaining about the graphics, which was like, if that's your primary motivation for a game, then maybe you should just stick with whatever game you like playing, because nowadays we know that graphics are not, by far not everything that matters in a game, and especially the graphics weren't that bad. So it was, for 2010, it was like normal. It wasn't bad, it wasn't horrible, it wasn't ugly or so, it was just normal graphics. Now, regarding game bugs, as I said, I played it through multiple times on 2 platforms and haven't seen any of the bugs that people were talking about. I didn't have a single jittering person in the corners. I didn't have any kind of issues. I was like fully engaged in the gameplay, and it was fine. I didn't see any of those issues. But why is it not available anymore? Because sadly, it's not available. You can only find it for PlayStation 3 if it's like a resale from someone privately or anything like that. But you cannot officially buy it anymore, sadly. And that is because they had licensing issues with some of the musical parts. Some music groups or whoever was responsible, or a music studio, said that no, you don't have the license to use it anymore in the game, so your game cannot be sold anymore. And it's like, okay, you could get money out of that, so that would be extra money for you because of the license, but no, they said no to the money. They didn't want to be involved with the game anymore and didn't want the hassle of renewing the licenses. So it cannot be sold anymore, and you cannot buy it, and it's kind of lost unless you have it. It's somewhere here for me, so I luckily still can play with it, which is kind of nice. But the interesting part is that Sega didn't continue with the game. Obsidian voiced multiple times that they are absolutely prepared and ready to do a sequel to the game and continue on with it. But Sega said no, they were not satisfied with the amount of money that was immediately producing. And they didn't want to continue with it. They didn't want to risk any more money on any kind of sequel, although there is quite a solid following for the game. But in 2021, I believe in March, in April, 2021, April, the trademark expired. They lost the trademark, meaning if anybody would be interested, then I would really like them to pick this up and do something with it. Because the idea, the concept, even just the core mechanics for a game like that is amazing, and I believe it would be really, really adored by a lot of people nowadays. It might not be a massive hit like, I don't know, Elden Ring or things like that, but it still would build a new cult following, and it would be a steady provider for a lot of people, because it's nowadays we get so much, let's just be honest, rubbish, that something like this, something so complex and giving so much freedom to the players and actually providing so much excitement and interesting situations and a really fun experience all in all, it would be really beneficial and would really be popular and successful, I believe. So that would be roughly it about Alpha Protocol. Sorry for not showing any images of the game or things like that, but I really don't want to risk any kind of copyright strike or such on my channel, because I'm way too small for that. But basically, just search for Alpha Protocol and you will see everything about the game, and all the bits and pieces will be revealed. So if you liked this kind of video, then likes are highly appreciated. If you'd like to see more of these kind of videos, then please subscribe. If you know anyone who would be interested in it, then please share the link with them. And if you wish to support me through any other channels, then you can do that via Patreon, where I'm sharing early access and exclusive content. And or you could buy a product or two with my designs on Redbubble, and maybe a copy or two of my coloring storybook for kids, The Adventures of the Smallest Astronaut Book 1, available in all regions of Amazon. So I hope you like this one. Thank you for your time. Bye.